Grace. As thanks, Kerry. My name's Catherine Grace, as Kerry has told you. And basically, my background is I've been working with builders and tradies for just over 15 years. Originally, I was a business coach working specifically with the construction industry, and I realised somewhere along the line that if everyone was making money, so if the phone's ringing and then you're able to turn those ringing phones into people signing contracts, that the rest kind of takes care of itself. So if you've got problems in other areas of the business, with systems, with people, with money, all those things tend to go away if you're actually able to get some homes to build, or get some runs on the board with sales, or be able to provide some services, or whatever it is that you do. So provided that you can get inquiries and then turn those inquiries into money, the rest can be sorted out. And so once I realised that, I started to specialise in marketing for small business, and then more specifically for trades and construction, because those areas you're not generally taught how to go and find the work. You're taught how to do the work, but you're not generally taught how to go and find the work. And once that bit's taken care of, it's a big bucket of stress off your head that you know that you can turn the tap on and off when you need it. Fair enough. So what I wanted to go over today was some of the really practical things that I would say to, if I had a client sitting in front of me, some of the really practical things that I would say to them as far as what can you have with you and what can you have as part of your business that can make it easier for you to get those right people and somehow show them that you're the right person for the job, and then get them to select you to do their job with. So whether that be a house, a kitchen and bathroom, a particular trade service, whatever it might be, other than going, okay, just be an awesome salesman, there's actually some really simple things that you can have kind of in your toolbox all the time that can then help you go out and show customers how good you are without having to toot your own horn, which most people are really uncomfortable with. So hopefully some of the things that I've got today you find a little bit practical, and the things that you can do right now that you can then go out and not necessarily have to be shouting how great you are from the rooftops. You're able to just sort of in a more subtle and more humble way show people the kind of workmanship that you can offer. So please, like Kerry said, please feel free to ask questions throughout. I'm much more used to speaking to people that actually exist rather than staring at my laptop screen, so I'm fine for you to ask questions as we're going, and usually other people are going to have those questions anyway. And yes, Kerry's apologising for audio with the weather, but I think that's hilarious because if you're in Melbourne, it's a good sunny 25 out there. Kerry, a friend of mine, just did the ice bucket challenge, and it's glaring sunshine out there, so okay. So the first thing that I want to do is, when you're looking at sales in terms of these industries, you're basically looking at how do we get the client to see what it is that we offer, apples for apples compared to what else they can choose from. Does that make sense? And so the apples for apples bit is often the bit that people get annoyed at, because often that's not the case what they're comparing. So the first thing we want to look at is what actually are the odds of what we're up against. So the odds. So that's going to vary depending on where you are. It's going to depend on the industry that you're in, how many people you're up against. And really, for the sake of that, you know, what I don't want is for someone to get really, really caught up with watching their competitors, because at the end of the day, it's what you do that's going to make a difference to the sort of work that you get and how much of that that work that you get. But when you're first going about marketing your business, you do need to sit down and look at what are the other businesses in the area that are doing the same thing as you. And for that purpose, I'm not concerned with the cowboys, and I'm not concerned with the people that are targeting different market to you. Does that make sense? So if you're a mid-range builder, for example, then you really only need to concern yourself with what are the other mid-range builders out there doing, what are they saying to people as far as what they offer, how are they attracting customers. You don't need to worry about the high-end ones because you're not competing against them. You don't need to worry about the cowboys because you're not competing against them. So excuse me, I'm still got that beautiful flu going around. So what you're wanting to do is look at who are you competing against that you're genuinely competing against for work. You'll often know those people because you'll come up against them with quotes. So what we did is we took just a random area, which was the northern suburbs of Melbourne. That's not the area that's the highest populated in terms of builders. So what we did is looked at one part of the construction industry, which was residential home builders, and we looked at how many there were in that particular area. So like I say, it's not the area that's the most populated with builders, it's not the area that's the least, it's probably somewhere in the middle. And what we found was that there was 2.6 builders for every square kilometre. So depending on where you are, if you're in Sydney that might be even more, if you're in Adelaide that might be slightly less, or so on and so forth. But it just gives you an idea that there are a lot of people, excuse me, so there's a lot of good tradies out there, and then a lot of those good tradies then end up running their own businesses. And so there's, fair to say, a lot of competition. And the problem with that is that a lot of the businesses out there don't know what makes them different to the others, and then it's really hard to explain to a customer. So if a customer can't understand what makes you different from everyone else, then that makes it really hard for them to choose you. So if we know that those are the odds, what we want to look at is what are some things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money and that aren't particularly hard and that any small business can do that are going to kind of improve those odds, that are going to give you a fighting chance to get the good work. Got one of those coughs that only if I talk does it actually tickle. So the first thing that you can do to improve those odds is actually do a bit of legwork beforehand. And this is the sort of stuff that kind of gets you in good shape, if you like, to then when you do go out and talk to a customer or you do go out and do a quote, you've got a better chance of winning it. And it's stuff that just sits there and kind of makes your life easier. So preparation, it doesn't matter whether you've been in business for 20 years or if you've got into business last week, you can do this, and in the customer's eyes you can kind of have been around for the same amount of time, if that makes sense. So let's look at some of the things that you can do as far as getting your business out there and prepared in terms of being able to win work. So the first thing that you want to do, and this is what, if someone comes to me and says that they're starting a new business, sometimes a couple of tradies will get together and become a partnership and maybe target commercial work or whatever they want to do. So if someone's coming and saying I'm starting a new business for whatever reason, or I'm rebranding my business, or I've realised that I now need to refresh my business and make it something more than what it was, then the first thing that we do is we sit down and write a list of 20 things or more that they do well. And most people can get to sort of 4 or 5 and then get a bit stuck. And so what this is about understanding, well, actually, there is all these things that make me different, I've done this before with, there was builders who had, that there's 2 registered builders in the one business. Or there's builders, if you have an office, that actually puts you, in a different category to most tradies and builders who have home offices. So there's lots of things that you don't really think about that are just part of how you do business that actually make you a better bet than someone else. So there's enough work for everyone, but we just want to make sure that you guys get the work that's a little bit better, as far as better paying customers, easier to deal with, all the rest. So to do that, we need to just make you seem a bit better than the rest, if that makes sense. So this is not about manipulating clients or lying to them. It's just about you guys really understanding and believing how good you are and being able to show people that without looking like you're full of yourselves. So the first thing is to sit down, and if you can't do it yourself, get someone to help you. The perfect person to help you if you're on good terms with them is a customer. So if you've got a client that you're really good friends with, I've got clients that have then made such good friends with their clients that they've gone on holidays with them and things like that. So if you've got a client that you're on good terms with, say to them, hey, can I buy you lunch and can we write down 20 things that I'm good at because I've got this homework from my coach, or whatever you want to say. And write down 20 things that you do really well. And that in itself will give you a much better chance of winning more work. And why is that? Because it gives you confidence. And it gives you not false confidence, it gives you confidence about things that maybe you had forgotten that you were really good at. Once you've got the list, why do you have to know this stuff? So what you have to know is you have to know what makes you better than some of the others. And in particular, in each case, you need to know what makes you better for this client. So if you can't see what makes you the best choice for this client, how are they going to be able to see that? So you need to know when you go in and find out about a job, you need to feel at the end of that that you really are the best choice for them. And then you tell them, I feel like I'm the best choice for you, this is why. And that's all it's about. So sales nowadays is not about trying to convince someone to do something that's not in their best interest. Sales is just about listening and listening and listening to what the client wants, and then prescribing, if you like, what you think is the best solution. And if you think that you're the best person to help them, then you tell them how and why. And that's literally what sales is about in the most genuine way, that you know, you're not ripping anyone off, you're just showing them how you think you can help. You then need to know how to explain that to someone. So that's what that top 20 is about. You need to be able to tell a client why you think that you're a good choice for them, why you think you can help them. And when you think of it in terms like that, it becomes not about a sales pitch. It becomes about you just telling them how you'd love to help them, which is a lot less sleazy and a lot more genuine. And so I think when it's such a big deal for this industry, for how much money people are going to spend with you, it's all about trust. So if you just tell them how you can help them be really genuine, that's going to build trust anyway. And then the last one is, once you know how to explain it, and we can go through some ways in a minute, because you don't have to necessarily sit there and say to the client, oh, hi, Mrs. Jones, here's 20 ways why I'm better. There's some ways that you can do it where you don't even have to speak. There's, something in writing can do it for you, so you don't have to, like I said, blow your own horn too much. But the last one is to make sure that you believe in it 100%, so that you believe that you are the best choice for the client, and make sure that you and everyone else that works in your business don't lose track of what are the things that you do well. And so putting that top 20 list on the wall, in the toilet or behind the coffee machine or somewhere prominent like that, means that everyone remembers what are the things that you're good at, and also that they don't drop the ball in those areas. So if you're saying that that's what you're good at, you also need to keep those in mind to make sure that you keep being good at those things. If anyone's got any questions about that, please just sing out. Now, what you do with that information, so you've got that information, it's in the office, or it's in your home office, or it's in the site shed or whatever, and you're living it and breathing it and going, okay, we know all the time that these are the things that we're good at, and we're going to keep being good at these things, and you know what, we're going to get better at these things, and we're going to, then because we know we're good at them, we're not going to be ashamed to tell our clients about them. Once you've got that, you package all that up, and you don't necessarily have a brochure called 20 things that we're great at. But what you can do is you can kind of put it into a more palatable version for clients. And so some of the ways that you can name that, I suppose, here's some examples. So these are all builders' websites that we've done. And the first one's a little bit hard to see, but you can see here that it starts with building integrity. Regardless of the type, scope or complexity of your building project, have confidence that building with Matheson Construction Group, we have the experience, industry connections, blah, blah. So it's talking about the things that they have. And then it has a mission statement, our mission statement, customised service, we'll offer open communication, stress-free experience, selective projects, we'll only choose a small number of projects, etc., etc. Those things are exactly from that top 20 list. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's saying these are the things that make us stand out. These are the things that make us a good fit for you. And so this builder is targeting high-end and also commercial work, and also unit development. And so they're saying for those type of customers, these are the things that we can offer you. The next one over is also a mission statement for BDG. The one on the bottom left, the JKB difference. So this is for a property inspection company. So instead of saying mission statement, we can say the difference in coming with us. We can say the plumbing one, why rely on us? Same thing. We'll always provide a detailed quote. We'll be honest and reliable. We've been in business for 40 years, whatever it is. You can call it, this is our values statement. You can say, why build with us? You can say our mission statement. You can say, what makes us unique? I've got another client that says what makes a Riley home unique, and it talks about the home and what makes the home different. So it's just about making it in a customer, what I call a customer-centric way, having what makes you different. And you can see really quickly that that makes the right client feel like they're in exactly the right spot. And that's exactly what your website and, more particularly all your marketing should do, is it should make your client feel like, oh, where have these guys been all my life? This is exactly the builder that I've been looking for. Or this is exactly the tradesman I've been looking for. This is exactly the renovation company I've been looking for. And the minute that they think that, they're going to go with you. It's that simple. If you think about it from your point of view as a customer, it's the same thing. The minute that you think this is exactly the perfect company for me, this is exactly the perfect tradie for me, that's who you go with. So we need to make sure that the right clients realise what you've got to offer, and a lot of the time that's the big thing that's missing, because everyone in this game is so humble, you forget to tell the customer what you're good at. If you've got any questions about any of those companies, just email me separately, because I'll probably best not to announce it to 120 people. But if you've got any generic questions about that kind of idea, that concept of being able to kind of put everything that you're good at in one place, and that doesn't have to just be on your website, that's obviously the perfect place to put it, but you can also have that at the start of a quote, you can also have that on your email signature, you can also have that on your business card if you want, you can have it as a separate brochure. You can use this material, and this is what we call intellectual property, that you take the time to put this together, and then you can use that in your business wherever, and when it comes time to sell your business, you've got something that kind of other businesses don't have. Okay, so I've gone on about that enough. The second thing that you can do to be prepared is have a sales process. And basically that just means having something in writing that talks about how you go through the process of taking the initial phone call and then turning that person into a signed contract. So why do we have a sales process? So the first thing is the perception. So the first reason why you have a process is just to show people that process, and you show them that process to show that you're an organised professional company. Does that make sense? So if on your website or in your brochure, for example, just to give you an example, I've got a painting client and we send out information packs to high-end builders because he's a very high-end painter, and in that information pack we have a flow chart that explains how their process works. So they'll come and do a site visit this day, and then they'll provide you with a written quote within 48 hours, and then they'll blah, 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 how it works. Now even if he doesn't follow that process to the letter, the fact that he was able to show that to the builder or to the site manager shows that he's got all his ducks in a row and they're more inclined to go with him. So it's the same thing for you guys. If you can show that you have a process, then if you can say to a client, this is the next step that happens after this meeting, that in itself will just make them feel like they've come to the right place because they can trust you because you know what you're doing and you're organised, rather than saying to them, what do you want to do next? The second reason is obviously that if you have that process, you might as well follow it, and then that makes you feel organised. And we all work for other people and then think, oh, and I went through the same thing. We want to work for ourselves, and then we get out there and we're like, oh crap, I'd really like this to feel like a 9-to-5 job again. Do you know what I mean? And so by having a sales process or any process in the business, you start to feel like you can clock on and clock off again. And you start to feel like, okay, well, I know these are the 4 things that I have to do today, because you're kind of giving yourself a framework to work within. And then the last one is that you can then, if you have stages that people are in, then you can work out which of those stages is working really well. So for example, if you have a 6-step sales process and you can see that there's heaps and heaps of people getting to stage 3 but not many people are getting to stage 4, then you know what bit to fix. But if you just know that, well, not many people that ring up are turning into contracts, that's really hard to fix because you don't know where along the line that the problem is. So here's an example of the sales process, and all this stuff can be sent to you. And Kerry also has a checklist, or you can email us for it, which has everything that I'm going to talk about today is all on a checklist. So if you're writing down all the different things that you need, you can stop doing that now because we'll send you a checklist after the webinar. But this is an example of a sales process, not for a builder because no one wanted me to share theirs, but this is a sales process for someone selling franchises, which is also what we call a big ticket. It's expensive. There's a big risk factor. It's scary for people, basically. So you've got to have quite a lengthy sales process to walk people through the concept of buying something so scary, basically. So that's an example of a sales process. And if to work out yours, literally the best thing to do is to not change anything, is to just write down what you're doing right now. Write down what you're doing right now, and then over time you can make changes, but the first thing to do is to systemize what you're already doing and not put too much stress on yourself. Okay, so this is my patented credibility meter. And what this explains is, it's a bit cheesy, but it explains how when you first meet someone, they don't know you from Adam, and that's not going to be enough for them to trust you to do something as big as spending 550, 500 grand, 5 million with you. So we need to build that credibility to the point where that person feels that they're okay to make the decision to do that. So that's what I call building the credibility meter. So I'm going to tell you now a whole heap of different things that you can do, and you can pick and choose what you want to do, but you can choose to do some of those things that are going to build that credibility for you, so that when by the time you come and ask for the money, you don't have to do all of that work yourself. You don't have to sit there for an hour and talk about how great you are, because some of that work's already been done by some of the things that we're going to talk about now. So does anyone have any questions about everything that I've run off right this second before I move on?
I haven't got any questions yet, Catherine, so...
Beautiful, okay. I'll just take a breath anyway. Okay, so what are some of the things that you can do to make your life a bit easier? We have to click forward. Okay, so the first thing is first impressions. And you know this yourself. If you've been driving up and down Main Street in your town for the last 20 years and you've seen the same business there and it always looks busy and it always looks professional and the signage is always nice, your first impression about that business is already good. So when you walk in that business, you're already more inclined to be using them than if that first impression wasn't there. So first impressions for this industry is about, firstly, word of mouth. So what's being said about you is going to lay the groundwork for what that customer is going to think about you. So by the time a client calls you, they already have a fair idea about you. Probably that it's good if they've called you in the first place, but you can certainly do lots and lots of things to make it be fantastic word of mouth, to make it be quite specific word of mouth. In other words, you can make it known that you're an expert in multi-dwelling, for example, or you can make it well known that you're fantastic at contemporary work, or you can make that word of mouth be actually working for you rather than just hanging around. So encouraging referrals, having people in your team that are really, really excited to be part of your business, that maybe get rewarded if they bring in work themselves, so that you've got other people out there as well as your customers that are actually saying good things about you. Local profile, that's probably one of the most important things for anyone in trades or construction, to almost be a little bit famous in your local area. And so that's what we call local area marketing. And it can be hard because people are a bit shy, but by getting involved in sports clubs, by going to festivals, by going to shopping centres and having a little stand or whatever you want to do, you almost want to become a little bit famous in your local area so that people have heard of you. Because if people have heard of you, then when it comes time to choose a builder or to choose a tradie or to choose a renovator, they're going to go to the ones that they know first. So you're certainly going to have first dibs. The other thing is online reviews, and there is a couple of services out there that can help you do those to a more professional level, where you can actually take advantage of customer reviews, and if someone posts a review about you, you can use it in multiple places. So there's that stuff out there. Or if you've got someone in your business, so whether you've got a admin person or receptionist, or you happen to have a teenager that you want to get them to set you up on all the directories, in particular Google Maps, which is the Google Places, so you're on the map. But anything like that is all going to help word of mouth, because people who have never heard of you are going to have heard of you. That's pretty much what word of mouth is about. Okay, next. Your website, this is something I'm really passionate about because basically now your website's your business card. So if your website isn't matching your work, you are absolutely missing out on the sort of customers that you want. So basically what that means is if someone meets you in person, or if someone walks through one of your jobs, or if someone goes to your website, they should all feel the same. So if you're targeting high-end work, your website needs to look high-end. If you're targeting mid-range work, your website can look mid-range, but it's got to be simple and easy to use, and it's still got to have photos of your work. And, you know, this is the cheapest thing that's ever happened to small business in terms of marketing, because on the internet, like I've said up here, you can be anyone. And to give you an example of that, this is a client of mine that have been around, that was 2 different builders that came together, and this business in this model has been around for under a year, I think. And from their website, you'd think that they've been around for 20 years because the experience that they both have can be combined together and put out there as well. But on the internet, you know, you can easily look as professional as competitors that may have done much larger projects than you or been around for many more years than you, but you can have equal dibs at the work. And so that's why for me it's so important. The other thing is that online advertising, getting people to come to the website and then contact you, is cheap as chips compared to putting ads in local papers and the yellow pages, which is what we all used to have to choose from. So I'm really passionate about it from that point of view, because you can build your credibility and your reputation without having to do all the legwork. And you can also reinforce word of mouth. So if someone says something good about you, you want them to be able to go to your website and go, oh, yeah, that's the right company, rather than hearing something great about you at the football club, going and looking for you on the internet and finding that you're not there, or that that it doesn't look like the people that they heard about. Any questions about websites, we can come back to them later. All of your other branding all adds up, and I know lots of marketing people will say this, but if you think about it in terms of if you're going down to your local town to choose a service, whatever it is, that the other branding certainly, it really does help. So if you have seen the name of a business before in your letterbox flyer or on a sign or on TV or on a car or whatever you've seen it, it really does help to strengthen your impression that that's a good solid company that's been around for a while and they're going to be around for a while longer. And so if you get your brand, first of all, to make it something that you're proud of. Second of all, preferably to not be your own name, because then you can sell it. And put that in places. You know, it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be in the school newsletter. It can be on a vehicle. It can be on your site signs. But the more obvious it is, the more standout it is, and the more that branding matches the style of work that you want to do. You know, if you want to do high-end contemporary, then make your site signs high-end contemporary. Make your business card high-end contemporary. And have those things be reinforcing out there so that by the time someone speaks to you to get a quote, they're already 3/4 of the way convinced. You can see that by my little meter going up, right? But all of those details add up. And if you think about it in terms of the work that you guys do, it's the same as the work that you guys do. When you guys do work, all the little elements add up. And if you use 50% good elements and 50% cheap stuff, it shows. It's the same thing with your marketing and your branding. If your website's got really good text but the photos are bodgy, then the end result's not going to be the same. It's all about all those elements all coming together to give the final impression, and it's the same with all the branding that you have out there. So thinking about having everything of a quality that is equal to your homes and your target market, or equal to your workmanship and your target market, sorry, not just for builders, and then having it in as many places as you can. Because there's that old thing that someone needs to see something 6 times before they make a decision, or you want them to have done that well and truly before they meet you. Okay, so that's first impressions. As you can see, you haven't even spoken to this customer yet, and so chances are that they've made all those judgments on you whether you like it or not, so you might as well put some things out there that are actually in control of that. Then what happens, we're going along to meet the person, so we're meeting them either for the first time or the second time to present a price. Doesn't really matter. What are some of the things that you can do at that point that getting them further along that credibility ride so that by the time they get the price put in front of them, they're already thinking, geez, you know what, assuming that this person's in the ballpark, I really would like to go with them. And that's the best place that you want to be in. So what can we do at the time of we're now in contact with the client? First one goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway because it's really true. Be on time and don't look too disheveled. If you work on site, it's okay to work on site, but you still want the client to think that you're on site running the job and making sure that everything's going well, not that you're on site digging holes. So make sure that you look like the owner of the business and look like someone that they can trust. Make it be appropriate to the type of work that you want. If you want to do the budget, if you want to do budget work for people that are on a really tight budget, then don't turn up in a Ferrari because people are going to automatically make an assumption that they can't afford you. So make it very appropriate to the type of work that you want. It's fine to be running late. It's not a problem to be running late, but make sure as long as you ring them and explain that before you get there, sometimes it's almost a good thing. The second one is a little piece of my IP, I suppose you could say. So this is one of my little ideas that I think is absolutely critical for every business, but especially small businesses and especially people in these industries. And I call it a company profile. It can be called a credentials document in corporate world, but basically it's just a little 2-page A4 thing, and it just puts in one place all those top 20 things that you're great at, you know. It's kind of like a little best of collection for your business. So it has some photos of the awesome work that you've done. It has logos for any memberships that you have. It has dot points of the services that you do. It has what you do great. It has a couple of short excerpts of testimonials, and it has your contact details. So it's kind of like a scaled down version of your website, if you like. So it's kind of like in between having a business card and in between going to your website. Because what you'll find is that most people won't go and look at your website if you ask them to. However, if you email them a PDF that's 2 pages, most people will read it. So this little bit of paper can be used in so many places. You know, most of the time you're just using this as a PDF document, so you don't have to actually pay to get this thing printed mostly. To put it together costs about $400, including the text and graphic design and all that, and I think they send you out, I think, 25, 50 printed copies as well. And so what you can do is you can use the printed copies if you're going to see someone in person, or if you're going to a home show, or you're going to a festival, and then the online PDF version, you email that to people when you're confirming a meeting, so they read it before they see you. You email it again if you have to email a quote, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you can also email it to supplier chain. So for example, if you are a builder, you can email it to architects. If you're a tradie, you can email it to builders. So it's just a really, really concise way of telling people about you. And again, like I said, you don't have to toot your own horn. You just have to attach this document, and it's all done for you. It doesn't look like you're full of yourself. It's just a really nice way of getting that credibility up there. So any questions about that, just please let me know. Next one is your quote. So again, don't forget your quote is a document that you're giving to the client, so you can use that as a sales tool. So you can use that. If we think of sales in terms of it's just trying to build your credibility so that it's not so hard to ask for the money, that your quote can be branded in a way, you know, if you're going for, again, so like I say, if you're going for high-end work, and I'll pick on that because I see a lot of people going for high-end work with a low-end quote. So I'm saying if you're going for high-end work, then make your quote look high-end. Get a graphic designer to spend $100 and make it look nice, you know. So it's about everything being appropriate for the kind of work that you're trying to get. Okay. Second thing, so the third thing, sorry, if you're going to a meeting, portfolio. So again, now I'll talk about this a bit more in the website, I'll talk about this a bit more in the website webinar, but talking about it in this one is more to the point of taking your portfolio along to a meeting. So when you're selecting what goes in your portfolio, think of it like nowadays, if you're going for a job, you don't just take your resume. What you do is you customize your resume to fit the job. Do you know what I mean? And so you want to think of it in the same terms. If you're going for a particular job, I think you saw back here with the quote template, there's a photo of a house on there. Now that's not the house that they're going to build, obviously, but what that is that's a similar project that they've done. And so it allows you, when you sit down with the client, to go, oh, by the way, I stuck this photo on here so I could tell you about this job because it was quite similar to yours. Let me tell you how we did it. And you're making the dialogue about how great you are and how capable you are of doing that sort of job, not about the price. So same thing with the portfolio, is choose the portfolio according to the type of work you're going for. If you do commercial work as well, it's a good idea to include that just as a nod to how capable you are, if you like. But make the photos that are that you show a client reflective of the level of job you're after. One of the worst things that people do is put every job they've ever done in their gallery on their website. Now, if you don't want to do another job that's a tiny renovation or a pergola, or for the kitchen people, if you don't want to do another $5,000 job, don't put that one in your gallery. Just put the sort of work that you want to do more of. So it all adds up. Do you see what I'm saying? All these little elements all add up. And you don't have to do much work to get the money at the end if you do all the little elements right. Next one is a checklist. So what I'm saying by this is, if you have a checklist with you, or you have a form to fill out when you see a client, it does not make you look stupider, it makes you look smarter. And if you think about that for a second, if someone turns up, particularly someone turns up to do a trade service at your house, and they have a checklist, or when you go to a medical appointment, or when you go to the hairdressers and they have a form to fill out, they look like they're being more thorough, they look like they're keeping records of your stuff, and they're going to give the best possible service that's going to suit you. It doesn't feel like they can't remember anything and they're going to take notes. So if you go to a meeting with a client and you go through a form and make sure that you've got everything covered, that's going to make you look like you care more rather than less, if that makes sense. And it also means that you can basically write your entire sales process down on a piece of paper and not forget anything. This one here is an example for an antenna business, and this is actually for, so this is something for the tradies, this is actually for if you're going to do a quote. This is what we call upselling, but it's upselling in the point of, we're going to save them a second call out fee, is there anything else we can do while we're here? So it's a really, really soft, kind of genuine way of going, can we help you with anything else while we're here? And obviously that's better for the client, but it's also better for the tradie. Okay, quote presentation. So quote presentation just means showing them the price, which is the big scary bit. But you can see now that if we've done some of this work, that credibility meter's got so far that they're already wanting to go with you. If you've done all of this stuff, they're already wanting to go with you if they can, because they're thinking, oh my God, I wish that everyone was like this. Where did these people come from? So the next thing that you need to do, which is what comes naturally to most people, is just ask them intelligent questions. So skill through questions. So what I'm saying is show off how good you are by asking an intelligent question. You don't need to bombard them with how good you are. You just need to ask them genuinely about what they need. And by you being more and more curious about what they need, it's going to show that you know your stuff. So this is what I call quiet confidence. And the best salespeople, if you think about who you've ever had an experience buying something from, the best salespeople are the ones that are confident but not showy, and they just genuinely want to help you. With those questions, what you're trying to do is to get to the real heart of things. So you're trying to get to the real reason, and especially, so with all of these services, there's some reason why the person's getting it, but especially with home building. So if you build houses, there's a reason other than the fact that they need a new house that you need to get to the bottom of why they want to build. So if you look at that example there, you're seeing that it's going from to downsize, which is a fact. Now if you stop it there, you've just stopped it at the fact. You haven't got to know anything about the person, and you haven't really got to a point where you can customize your service to make their life easier. And so if you ask a few more questions, you can start to understand, what am I actually doing here? How can I actually help this person? And then suddenly that gives you a chance to show off your skills and go, okay, well, I've done a house before that needed higher accessibility, and this is what we did. And you can see here it's really easy for you to get excited about the person then and excited about the job and show your enthusiasm, and they're looking at you going, well, this person really cares about me. Match made in heaven, yeah? The walkthrough, I've put these here just to say, please try and go through your quote in person. If it's over $5,000, try and go through it in person with the client. If you can't manage to make that happen, then this is what I want you to do, is find out, ring them up after hours and say, oh, hi, Mrs. Smith, I'm just checking, are you home at the moment? Is it okay if I send you an email? She says, yep, I'm home. You go, okay, great. Have you got 5 minutes? She's like, yep, I've got 5 minutes. Okay, well, can you just jump on your computer? I'm going to send you my quote now, and I'm going to read through it with you while you're on the phone, because there's a lot in there. I want to make sure you're comparing apples for apples, so I really want to explain it for you rather than you having to just go to the number and not understand where we can go from there. And that gives you pretty much the same control as if you had them in front of you. It's not perfect, but it's much better than emailing the quote, giving it a kiss for good luck and hoping for the best. I feel like I'm talking for a lot, so if anyone's got a question, bail me out here. Another little tricky piece of documentation, if you like, that can help you get some credibility without having to do any work. And this is called advice when comparing quotes. And so what happens is I give my clients a standard one of these, and then they change it to suit their business, and also so they don't all sound the same. But we put this on the website sometimes we just give it with quotes, sometimes we use it as a brochure. And basically what it is, some people call it a survival kit or a roadmap, and basically you're just giving the client advice on how to shop around. So you're basically saying, look, we know that you're probably going to shop around for different service providers or different companies. These are the things that you should be looking at. And naturally, me being in marketing, that you come up as chumps with all of those different things, but you're genuinely also arming your client that if they do go shop around, they're going to be comparing you to another reputable company, not comparing you to a cowboy. Finally, you've done all of this work, your credibility meter's off the chart, and you now need to give them the price. What you are aiming for at this point is that they are thinking in their head, provided that I'm in the ballpark, I really want to go with these people. And then the second thing that you're hoping is that you've done enough credibility work so that they feel like they're friends with you and they feel like they can trust you, and if something isn't right, that they're going to tell you and give you the opportunity to fix it. So I hope that makes sense, but basically what you need to do, and it can take a little bit of guts and it can be a bit hard until you get lots of practice, but you really need to force yourself to do this, because otherwise often you're wasting your time going to the meeting, and you guys know this, is at the end of the meeting or at the end of the phone call is say, and so Mrs. Smith, the price that we've come up for your project is blah. How does that sound? What she will say is only one of three things. She'll say, it sounds great, let's go. That's way too high, it's completely out of my ballpark. Or, it's almost there, I probably can't quite afford that much, but it's, you know, it's close, or whatever. If it's completely out of their ballpark, you're going to have two options. You can either say, okay, no worries, sorry we couldn't help you. If you can't find anyone that does meet your budget and you realise that you're going to need to pay more, we'd be happy to be considered. And then if they're kind of within the ballpark, then you can say, and the thing about construction and trades is because of the materials component, it's not just, you're just the middleman. It's not about you charging $500,000. You're just the middleman. And so because you've opened that negotiation on the spot, you can say to them, okay, well, looking at this, there's definitely some things that we could change that will bring your budget down in your mind, saying without me actually losing any of my profit, why don't we sit down and work it out together? If you have that level of trust with clients, and you'll know that that's happened in the past, because that's when they start saying, oh, look, I've got this other quote for this, can you have a look at it for me? And if they say, look, I've got another quote that's $20,000 cheaper or 30% cheaper or whatever they say, you've got absolutely nothing to lose by saying, well, you know what, I'm more than happy for you to go with them, but I want to make sure you're not getting ripped off. Do you want me to have a quick look at it and see that it's exactly the same as what I'm quoting on? They may say no, that's okay, you still haven't lost anything, but a lot of the time they'll say yes if you've done the credibility work and they trust you. Yeah, that'd be great because I really do want to go with you, but I don't understand why they're so much cheaper. So that's why it's so important to get it out on the table while you're with the client, so that you don't have to try and, it's impossible to try and get that back later, as you probably know. Once they've decided they're not going with you because you're too expensive, it's really hard to get back in the running then, so you need to open that negotiation on the spot. Everyone's favourite, last but definitely not least, is following up. And so this is where if you leave a meeting or a phone call with a potential client, the best thing you can do to help yourself out is leave some sort of calling card so that you can go back. And so basically what I mean by that is, say you're leaving, you presented the quote, they've said, okay, I'm going to talk to my husband, and what I want you to do is give them a little statement that tells them what's going to happen next. So, okay, no worries. Can you give me a call by the weekend? Let me know because I've got a lot of work on at the moment, but I'd love to do your job. So just let me know what he says and I'll try and hold a spot for you. If I don't hear from you, I'll give you a call on Saturday. And what that does is it means that when you call them on Saturday, you're actually helping them out because you're trying to quickly hold that spot for them. So you're not just ringing them and saying how you're going, which is annoying for everyone. But it also creates a bit of a deadline for you. So that if you're not great at following up, you go, oh, well, I promised this client I'll call them on Saturday, now I'm going to call them on Saturday. So it creates a little bit of a hook for you as well. This is an example of an actual builder and how they go about following up their clients. So if you're building, you know, more than 10 or 20 a year, you definitely want to be doing something to keep track of all of those inquiries. So have a system. And don't forget the grey ones. So what I mean by that is, if you're getting lots of referrals, there's always going to be those ones that go straight through that are gimmies. They were always going to go with you, they're easy. There's always going to be those ones that are completely not the right customer for you. But there's these ones in the middle that are the grey area. Those are the customers that if you do the right things, you can get them over the line. So don't forget about those ones because they're the ones that can be inclined to go cold if you don't leave them with, you know, I'm going to speak to you next week, or give them some homework. Okay, you go talk to the bank and find out how much you can spend, and then you ring me back. You know, make yourself be the person that's helping them move the process along, as opposed to sitting around waiting for them to do it when it's their time, when they're ready. So as we come to the end, if you want to make a start on this stuff but you're not sure where to start, this is pretty much the first 5 things to do. So the first thing is know what makes you different. So that's sit down and write those 20 things, get someone to help you, get people in your team to help you is the best fun. So if you actually have contractors or you have staff, have a barbecue and get those 20 things out. And it seems a bit fluffy, but you know what? People love it, and especially tradies love it. They really, you know, you think that it seems a bit fluffy, but especially the younger ones, your Gen Ys and younger, love being involved in the business and love being asked what it is good about that business, and you'll find that that really makes your work environment even better, which then attracts better people as well. So know what makes you different. Number 2, write down how your sales process works. Number 3, review your website and review your brand with a really honest look. Does it match the work that you do? Number 4, put some things together. The main 2 are have a template for your quotes and have a company profile, I think. And then the last one is start following your sales process and see where the holes are. See what you're really good at, see what you need some help with. And from all those things, you can't help but exponentially get better at converting your inquiries. Once you've got too many inquiries, or once you're converting too many to people that are really wanting to go with you, you end up with this thing called a waiting list. So once you've got a conversion rate where, you know, you're getting 1 in 2, 1 in 3 of your quotes turn into clients, you're going to find out that you either need to make the business bigger or you need to become what we call boutique, which means there's more work than you need, and you have, you know, people knocking at your door, which, like I said, takes all the stress away. You don't have to worry about where the next meal's coming from. You can just get on with, you know, running the business and, God forbid, actually enjoying working for a minute. I'll flick back over to Kerry in a second and see if there's any questions, but just to finish up, if you want some help, there's the email addresses. Numbers 2 and 3 are only for HIA members, so please don't let anyone else know about those. But we do offer a website review which goes in and looks at your site and tells you how you can convert more people to making the contact and making an inquiry, because obviously that's what we want a website for, so people actually call you. And then the last one is an HIA rate only for new websites, which also includes me helping you. So any questions about that, please let me know. But if you've got any questions in general, then please type them on through to Kerry now.
Thanks, Catherine. I have got a couple of questions here. One of them is how many times should you follow up someone? And I'll read out another question I've got from Sarah, which is a similar thing. Sarah said they go through all the processes and checklists. The problem is that we find people don't answer your calls when you make time to call them. How else can we get in contact with them?
Yep, I've actually had that exact discussion this week with one of my clients, the same thing, and he's in a completely different industry, but exactly the same thing every time he calls them. And I remember when I was in a franchise company, I used to call people and no one called me back. So the first part of that question is how many times. I'm a big fan of the 3 strikes and you're out, because I find most people don't even do 3. And so if we say 3 strikes and you're out, it kind of gives you permission to not go chasing them forever. And I would usually say by that 3 strikes that it's 2 phone calls and 1 email. So don't send 3 emails and then discount someone, 2 phone calls. As far as what to say when you call them, the best thing is to have something to say. So ideally you want to call them up and say, oh, you know how we were talking about the solar panels? Well, I've actually found some that are cheaper, or something newsworthy like that can make it really easy to contact them without seeming desperate. And then as far as getting them to call you back, well, the thing that we came up with my client this week was to try and have something that they want. So the initial inquiry, we found that the best way to get a call back from the initial inquiry, and look, if you don't, then obviously they weren't very strong leads to start with, and then maybe we need to go back and look at your marketing and make sure that some reasonable people are calling you. So that's the first thing. You can't convert an idiot, right? So if you've got people calling you that are not ever going to be good customers, then they're not going to, doesn't matter what you do. But of the ones that we want, I found a really good thing is to make it not so scary to call you back. And so what I would suggest is you call and say, hi, it's Sarah from ABC Constructions. I've received your contact details via our website. I was just wondering if you could call me back and give me a couple of extra details so that I can send some pricing information over to you. Because that's what people, people think that they want you to just email them a price, but they don't really, because you really need to find out more about them. And so what you want to do is kind of dangle that carrot and say to them, look, I've just got to check off a couple more details and then I'm going to send you out some information. And you'll find that that feels really low risk for people. They don't feel like you're going to start selling them on the phone, and they will call you back. And when they call you back, the whole purpose of the call is for you to get some more details off them. So off you go. You can then start asking questions. Remember, like I said, we're not about selling by selling ourselves. We're about selling by asking questions and finding out what someone wants. So that ball started rolling. So I find that's the best way. It's about being really interested in people and being really genuine. But if you make it low risk, they tend to get back to you. A bit, not always. I'm no genius.
Dale's asked, how do you get a presence on Google for your website? If you're, so if someone types in builder in Hobart, how do you increase that Google ranking? And that's probably something we might talk about, I guess, in next week's webinar on websites. And I've actually just written a guide on getting your business found online. But I guess perhaps we could talk about quickly just about Google AdWords and SEO.
Well, we'll talk about it. So like Kerry said, there is a webinar that we're running next week about websites, which will answer it in more detail. But basically the first thing that you guys can all do is get on the free directories, and that's going to help so that if someone Googles your business name, for example, you're going to come up. The other thing is you can manually send your website address off to Google. So say if we do a new website, we manually send that off to Google and say, hi, come and find us and index us. Don't wait for Google to come around to finally find you. Those things will mean at least if someone looks for your business name, you come up, because that's really embarrassing if you don't even come up for your own name. Then the next best thing I feel is Google AdWords, which is basically like putting a Yellow Pages ad in, but that you can put it in, put it out, make it bigger. You can run 500 Yellow Pages ads at once and see what people click on. And so it's basically saying, look, I've got my website, it's here, it's awesome, and then putting out party invitations and saying everyone come over and hang out. And that you can spend $50 a week, or you can spend whatever, and you'll still get people coming to your website for that. So that's my view, the best way. The other way that Kerry's talking about is called SEO, and SEO is about trying to, for want of a better word, trying to outsmart Google to end up on the free rankings, to end up in the middle of the page so that you're naturally coming up. The problem with that is that Google doesn't really want you to do that. So if you want to get in and battle David Goliath style with Google, that's good, but they may change the rules again. So I tend to lean more towards the AdWords, which I can talk to you about in detail offline anyway.
And I think you also mentioned getting yourself on, was it Google Places?
Yeah, so the first place you want to start is if you go to Google+, or I think if you go to business.google.com, Google has a really good site set up that helps small business get listed. So it helps you do all that, and basically it puts you on the little map. So being on the little map's the first thing, because then if someone does look for a builder in your local area, you're going to come up for free.
And we love that free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm conscious that we're starting to run over time, so but happy to take any more questions that people have, and I've had a few people asking to go on the list for next week's webinar, so I'll send that invitation out to everybody. I'll send a copy of the recording if everything's worked, and also the checklist that you mentioned, Catherine.
Yep.
I think, yeah, I'll send a link to the webinar next week so people can just register, because this one filled up very quickly. And I just want to remind everyone, I have a survey just at the end of this webinar. I really appreciate it if you fill it out. It gives me an indication of the sort of things that you like to hear about in webinars. Catherine's great. She volunteers her time every few weeks, and she always has lots of lots of practical info. So thanks again, Catherine. I know you've I hope everyone can hear me and the sound's working okay now.
Yes, we can. You sound beautiful now.
Oh good, oh good. I know you're really busy with the new baby, so thanks again for your time. If anybody has any questions, any marketing questions, shoot them through. I'm sure Catherine's happy to answer them. And
yeah, well, you've got my personal email address there, so
yeah, just send them through. Yeah, Catherine loves to help our members out. So thank you everybody for joining us, and I look forward to you joining us next week for our next webinar. And take care, and I'll talk to you shortly. Thank you.